Hello, last week I stayed in St Ives, Cornwall, so that I could do another art course at the St Ives School of Painting. My friend Jerry had come over from the Netherlands to do the course as well, and this is our walk to school on the first morning from the hotel. We'd had to do a bit of wading to be able to come in through the harbour, and I turned up at school on the first morning with my jeans soaking wet. This is the school building, which overlooks beautiful Porthmeor beach from the back. And these were our lovely classmates for the course. The course was titled Banish Fear of Failure by Iona Sanders. We started by visiting the sculptor Barbara Hepworth's house in St Ives. Both the house and garden were wonderful places to be and full of inspiration. We were encouraged to sketch anything that caught our imagination. The shapes of the sculptures, the plants, the textures or colours, anything we liked.
Yeah. Oh, okay, good, perfect.
It was also great to see Barbara Hepworth's workroom. It was fun walking through the little back streets of St Ives with my class. We went back there again the next day for a little bit and continued sketching. This is my sketchbook from the course. I was mainly drawn to the plants and also some of the architectural shapes of the sculptures. This was the view from the garden over the St Ives rooftops, with the hill in my village in the background. These were all very quick sketches just to capture impressions, but it's still quite a hard exercise for me to do that when the results are far from perfect and you're not working on fixing them. I hadn't come across the tutor Iona Sanders before, but she was absolutely the most wonderful teacher. She showed us the technique of covering a board with a background colour, then painting in the detail lines with black acrylic paint, and then filling in the spaces with colour. I started off doing some of the shapes and plants that I'd sketched in the morning, but wanted to see how the technique would transfer to my beloved landscapes. Nothing here is finished, but this is what I'd produced by the end of the first day. This was the view from our classroom over Porthmeor Beach. After school, Jerry and I came down to Bamela's beach, where I had a quick swim, and a curious seal popped up to say hello. This is St Ives Harbour at high tide. And we also walked out along the harbour wall. St Ives Harbour looks so pretty at night. And this is Tregenna Castle where I stayed. This is an example of the black acrylic paint outlines on a coloured background. On day 2 I had several paintings on the go at once. I think the most important piece of advice I got from the course was that if you don't know what to do next, do nothing. This prevented me from overworking anything, and when I didn't know what to do next, I'd just start a new piece. When something new would occur to me to do on a painting, I'd switch to that one for a bit until I ran out of things to do again. This is the yellow painting with black outlines, which I showed a moment earlier, and you can see how I've started to fill in between the lines with colour. I didn't want to cover the black completely. I really liked the effect of it showing through in places. I'm not aiming for realism at all here in these paintings. For me, usually, painting A4 size seems big, which is very roughly 8 by 12 inches. But Iona, my teacher, seemed to take great delight in dragging out these huge boards for me to paint on. I had the most wonderful time and felt free and loose, and it was great fun. Switching to a new painting whenever I got stuck was really liberating as well, and I enjoyed working really fast. After school on the second day, Jerry and I headed over to the Tate Modern Art Gallery. There's a lot of work in the Tate that I'm not that keen on and don't really understand, but I still love coming here. It's such an interesting place. I really love this atrium area as well. And I do have my favourite pieces of art that I like coming to say hello to. Here's the iconic view over St Ives that's been painted so many times from the Tate Cafe. This is where Jerry and his wife and my husband and I met each other and got talking for the first time last year. Walking back along Porthmeor Beach after visiting the Tate. Our walk to school on the third and last morning. Regardless of the weather, St Ives always feels such a special place. This is the harbour a bit later on, during a very high tide. On our last day, unbeknownst to us, Iona had whisked away one of each of our paintings and set up a little art gallery in one of the other classrooms. She even provided us with sparkling drinks in wine glasses and had printed out invitations for us. I absolutely loved the work of my fellow students, and this was just a really special little occasion. This is Iona talking about one of my paintings, the one in the middle, and then about one of Jerry's paintings. Later, I took the opportunity to come down to this classroom again. It's one of my favourite spots, and I love looking over Porthmeor Beach from it. On a previous class that I attended here, my desk was in this spot, and I spent more time looking out the window than getting on with any work. And here's a sneak peek around the school. My classroom this time was on the top floor. This is all of the work I did over the 3 days. A few of the paintings which I'd started on the first day I ended up painting over, but these other ones I've all brought home with me. I wouldn't say that any of them are finished or that I'm completely happy with any of them, but I was pleased with the progress that I'd made while I was here, and the lovely loose method of painting that I'd learned from Iona. She was a marvellous teacher and I think really brought out the best in each of us. The next day, after I dropped Jerry off at the train station to begin his journey back to the Netherlands, I came and sat on this bench overlooking Porthminster Beach in the bright sunshine and wrote my journal for a couple of hours. I really felt like I'd learnt a lot on this course. A new style using acrylics, a much looser and freer way of working at a much larger size, but also we had lots of discussions in class about the psychology behind making art. I think I had a glimpse of how I can be more confident in my art, and actually for the first time ever feel like being able to call myself an artist without feeling like a bit of a fraud. I also felt like I'd really enjoyed the process of making art more than I usually do, and at the same time less bothered by what anyone else might think of it. So overall it was quite a wonderful and emotional experience. I'm home again now, and I thought I'd just show you the paintings a little bit closer up. This was the first painting which I started at the school, based on one of Barbara Hepworth's sculptures. I don't love it, and I want to work on it a lot more, but I didn't want to get rid of this one, partly because it was the first one where I was trying out the new technique of using the black acrylic paint lines, and partly because I want to see where I can take a painting if I stick with it. You can see I've already painted lots and lots of layers. It was just a case of whenever I didn't know what to do next or didn't like how it was going, I'd just stop and leave it and then try something new the next time I came back to it. And this was the first one I did where I wondered if I could actually try the same technique with a landscape. So I used a photo I'd taken of my local beach for the outlines and then just blocked in with whatever colours I felt like at the time. I was quite happy overall with how the style of it was developing. Though again, I'm not happy with it as a finished painting, but this really caught my imagination at this point. At one point on the course, Iona challenged us all to do a painting just in different shades of white and not to worry about any contrast or shadow or anything like that. It's a really interesting exercise to do, and everybody came out with really varied and interesting results. After my first landscape, Iona brought out this huge board and told me to paint it and not use any reference pictures at all. So this whole picture I just painted from memory of my local beach. I did it quite quickly and loosely, and I didn't think too much about colours or anything. And although it's not a wonderful finished piece, for me it was really exciting. Firstly, that I didn't need to use a reference picture, and secondly, that I could just feel this free and easy with painting a huge painting. This is one where I wasn't overly happy with the textures. Well, I still want to change some of the colours as well on the cliffs, but to mix up the texture a little bit, I'd started using some black oil pastel and just putting in some rocks. And I quite liked the direction that that was going in, so I'll probably play around with that some more. Again, with this other huge one that I started, I'm not overly happy with the overall colours and contrast in it. I think I'll work on it a little bit more. But I did like adding in these rocks with the black oil pastel again. And this one is also an example of where I've left the really rough, loose brush marks, but actually quite liked the overall effect of that. This was one that I'd based on a photo again. I'm not sure how I feel about the sea in it. But again, rather than just carrying on with something I wasn't enjoying, I'd set it aside, and I know I can come back to it later when an idea occurs to me. This was just a very quick one out of my head, but drawing on my memory of the landscape at St Ives. And this was a super quick one I did at the end just to use up some leftover paint. I think it took me about 5 minutes in total. I used a reference photo again for this one, and I suppose this was slightly inspired by the all-white one, where I've got areas of low contrast light colours next to each other. And lastly, another of the huge ones. This was based on a photo I'd taken of some woods a few years ago. I'd already painted the backboard yellow, with no intention of what I was going to do with that. So it was kind of interesting to me to see how it developed. I was a bit scared not to be doing a seascape. I definitely haven't finished this one yet. The greens were just splodged on very quickly towards the end. But I kind of like where it's going, and I quite like the yellow that's peeking through as well. So I hope you found this video interesting. It's definitely felt like an important time for me. I've actually bought one of Iona Sanders' paintings now, and I'm going to go down to her studios in New Lynn when I pick it up, so I'm excited to see her again. Thanks ever so much for watching. Bye!